We cry at sad movies. We don't feel we lose face or stature or position.
Meryl Streep there, all about empathy. She knows exactly how good it is to be in somebody else's shoes and to look out for them. But will her words actually work in 2021? Because there's a hell of a lot coming up, and here's what's coming up. So let's see if Meryl Streep knows exactly what to do in 2021. So Nostradamus was born in Saint-Rémy-de-Provence, southern France, December 14th, 1503, and he was a philosopher. At the bottom line is he was a philosopher. Okay, he was a physician and so on, but he predicted lots of things. Now, the thing about him is all his predictions they're written somewhere, and most of them, the majority of them, actually come true. That's a very good thing. So we can actually go at the start of each year, hey, what did Nostradamus say? And what did he say for 2021? He said many things. Now, of his over 6,000 prophecies, over 70%, 70, imagine, have actually come to pass. Now, his predictions up to the year 3,797. So if you're wondering what's going to happen in the future, just watch out for those years and you'll be able to see if you're alive, that is. Well, if you're alive is hugely important for this year because zombie apocalypse is going to happen. Yes, indeed. Now that sounds totally far-fetching. When I read it first, I thought this is absolutely crazy. But when you read into it a little bit more, you can begin to see some form of perhaps logic behind the idea. These are the words, quote unquote, that Nostradamus, according to this article, is supposed to have said about this particular, zombie happenings. Few young people half dead to give a start, dead through spite, he will cause the others to shine, and in an exalted place some great evils to occur. Sad concepts will come to harm each one. Temporal dignified, the mass to succeed, fathers and mothers dead of infinite sorrows, women in mourning, the pestilent she-monster, the great one to know one more, all the world to end. All the world to end is highlighted there. That's a scary prophecy. It's a scary one to start with, and it's one that is definitely not attractive. And you're thinking, I thought 2020 was bad, just rewind back the clock. Let me get back there to 2020. Please let me just be on my own, self-isolated, quarantined, around nobody, because at least I won't be dead. But this one doesn't necessarily mean this. It means, of course, what it said. The Russian scientists will develop some sort of biological weapon, and there'll be things happening from that. Let's hope not. At least by the time you see this video, otherwise I'll be dead. The next one is a famine of biblical proportions. Quote unquote, according to this article, he was said to have said, after great trouble for humanity, a greater one is prepared. The great mover renews the ages. Rain, blood, milk, famine, steel and plaque. Is the heavens fire seen, a long spark running? Now, there's a lot of words there, very wordy in some ways, but it's predicting a famine according to this particular site, and that's very interesting because it's possible a famine could come maybe in 2021, but if we look around the world even prior to 2021, there's an abundance of food having been produced, and produced in a very non-healthy manner, because the grounds that have been used to grow the foods haven't actually recovered from pesticides overusage, from being horribly malnourished of certain other nutrients from certain other flowers or plants, flowers and fauna and so on. And the reason being is because of mass production of foodstuffs, delivery of foodstuff across and overseas from one continent to the other, a lot of mass shipping, a lot of airplane flights here and there, and of course this is where global warming's problems, and some of the areas where global warming's problems arise from. The fact that we have an overproduction of food, yet we have still the possibility of famine. We've seen it in war-torn places such as in Africa, and in recent times where, as I said, there's plenty of food. So it's really a thing we need to look out for sure in 2021 and beyond. The Muslims, according to this particular website, will lead the world. It says, in the Danube and the Rhine will come to drink. The great camel not repenting it, those of the Rhone to tremble, and much more so those of the Loire. And near the Alps the cock will ruin them. Now, mentioned there is of the Alps and places and so on. And of course there's huge things going with regard to this particular inference that maybe the Muslims will grow in numbers and lead the world. Now there's huge numbers of Muslims already. So it's just a matter of Muslims getting into better positions, isn't it, of authority, and perhaps the growth of Muslims' numbers and the spread more so of the growth than the growth that will actually educate other people in the Muslim faith. And this can happen for sure. It's going to happen though with the spread of immigration, migration and so on. And there's different countries, for example in Europe, that are opening their gates to people that are Muslim, people that are of different religions, that are of minority religions, that are coming from different areas of the world, that have suffered war-torn problems or suffered some form of economic disparity. So for sure Muslims are going to, their religion and beliefs are going to spread around the world. That's an absolute reality. And whether they're going to lead the world or in what way they're talking about this is another question. So, solar storms, we don't want any more things happening. Thank you very much. It's 2021. But storms are going to be a thing, and these are things that are definitely happening with regard to global warming. We mentioned it already. Global warming can be a very tough and challenging time. It's a time for us all to stop and just wonder, how can we treat our world differently? How can we actually act responsibly as both as individual human beings, citizens of our countries, but more importantly citizens of the world? Because what I do affects you. How I act and how I grow my food, how I eat my food, how I use my different things with regard to my emissions and stuff, and even how I invest in things and think about things, invariably eventually dictates how you and others will, and certainly future generations will actually encounter this world. So it's really, really important to understand and to actually realize that. Now these solar storms with regard to this particular website have to do with the harmful effects of climate change. So certainly it's happening, it's warming up, we're feeling it, there's different types of things happening such as storms. They claim that there's going to be a comet to hit the Earth, and this will come very close to Terra. They say here, quote unquote, this event will cause earthquakes and other natural disasters, which can be concluded from the Quran, quote unquote, and quote again, in the sky one sees fire and a long trail of sparks. So again, it's, how can you decipher from that that's exactly what that quote means? But this is, I suppose, there is one thing there, a relationship with sky and fire-ish kind of thing, and other than fire going up into the sky from the ground, that is, perhaps there could be something related to a comet. And if that's the case, well, we'll definitely be looking up in 2021 and beyond for help, that is. So it's something to look at, if we can see it up there, or look forward to. Now, California has definitely been in the news, and it's been a very, very challenging time for people in California throughout these last few years. Of course, it's a wonderful place to live. It's a beautiful, sunny place, but at times can be really, really tricky and tough. And Nostradamus, according to this article, is claiming that in 2021 there is going to be a devastating earthquake coming from there, closer to 2021. So it's really important for us to kind of acknowledge what could happen and to be aware of it too. The American soldiers will have brain chip implants. Now that is quite a thing to say. How and where this brain chipping is going to go on is an interesting thing. Facts over fiction. Again, for me, for this particular thing, I can see how there's a possibility of it insofar as the actual technology is out there medically and both technologically as well. And I can see how rationally there would be a need for that you could get huge data and huge information and huge knowledge for present attacks or present things that could go wrong. But morally and ethically, I just don't know. I mean, I think it's not the way forward, is it? Finally, Pope Francis is going to create and bring people together in the church, create a better church, a more holistic church, a more welcoming church. And look, anybody who's Catholic that follows that, then they can only be welcoming of this, because there has been past indiscretions from the Catholic Church. And so Pope Francis might be the man that actually brings home the love and finally shows it in every practical way throughout the church. Certainly, if all things have come to pass that have happened in that particular article and those particular prophecies, we need some form of prayer, or we need some form of good information to discuss it, to look at it, and to see if we can actually interact with each other and improve and live and do well. So, as the wonderful Meryl Streep said, empathy is a wonderful thing to have. She has experienced it. We certainly will need empathy on the way forward. So maybe she's right after all. So please subscribe if you haven't already. If you have, thank you very much. Until next time, have a wonderful